Hello everyone, let's choose today for our seasonal channel update, Winter 2025, a new era, because every new video marks a new era on Schwerpunkt, but at large, as you know, I use this segment of content to update you on how the channel is faring fundamentally and sort of profiling the type of change, of development that at this point, like always, in fact, the channel manifests, undergoes, and presents in different ways, because this is definitely based on our interaction, how videos are received, how sort of I decide to vary them in topic in order to organize them, to narrate them ad similem. So we'll go in order. Normally, I start with analytics, but what can I say in general about what's happening? At large, things have fairly changed from last year in a significant way. Essentially, in 2023, late 2023, there's been a sort of sharp increase, if not a booming, of views, and we reached a plateau fundamentally of revolving around between 3,000 and 4,000 views a day. This has remained stable. Last year it kind of went down. I remember February being normally on Schwerpunkt a moment of relative stasis, of stagnation, even of shrinking, because normally most views come in September, October, and then they fundamentally remain at that level. The Christmas holidays help a little bit, probably also the colder weather in the northern hemisphere. There are more people at home from the countries that mostly follow me. We are essentially a North Atlantic channel, with the great joy of the anti-Atlantists for that matter. And this, of course, happens for obvious reasons, but this cycle remains stable throughout the year. However, every year there are more subscribers, and so at this point we reached a level of watch spikes that I so called because of the from last year. We have this sudden number of, say, we get even to 4,000. The record was, I think, in last September we got to 4,000 views in a day. And ever since, again, there's been a lot of subscribers, so those have helped, reaching this kind of spikes more frequently. This is how it works now. I get that 3,000, it's 4,000, in 48 hours, because that's fundamentally YouTube's window showing you what's going on. They decided to put it 2 days, probably to spur you in general, because there is a cyclicity, I think, in the algorithm that I think I sorted out finally this year on the basis of other people's acknowledgements. That is, essentially, there is a first day of view counts that are merely connected with the direct sort of followers engagement. The highest level of views come from that, so people that have subscribed, and I don't know how, because I think I've never subscribed to any channel myself, so I don't know how even notifications arrive. After 2 million views on YouTube, that's still foggy to me. However, that represents the wide majority of views. There are other figures, we will see them now, but essentially how you routinely interact with the channel as a follower, as a subscriber especially, is mostly how the trend goes, like how the greatest swings during across the days go, right? There are, of course, evident, say direct connections of the subscribers with particular type of content. As you know, I already know what kind of videos, what kind of thumbnails, what kind of titles are going to be more or less appealing. I've been experimenting a more strategic way especially in the past year. We've gotten better at that. I try to improve a bit the sound as well. Some of you tell me, but I hear this sort of ringing in the background. Yeah, I know, that's the normal sort of background, which like that I use the denoiser with, and if you listen with the headphones, but it must be really at the highest level, and it's still pretty subtle at that point. If you just, at least my headphones, I barely hear it, but I know that there are some people who find it annoying and other people watching without saying anything. And I think at that point it mostly depends on people who are listening. I'm going to, on the basis of however you receive that sound, because I can't listen to my videos without hearing that. I check whenever you complain about that. I check the say the videos that I have on my desktop in my folders that I have to re-upload, and I realize that if it's minimally the volume is below minimally below maximum, I can't hear that sort of, you describe it in different ways, ringing or whatever. So for now, like, it's never really been much of a problem. On Schwerpunkt, you can maybe hear other noises. For example, if you wonder, this noise that you hear, it is often is the chair. Especially as I move when I record, I'm going to buy a new microphone soon, because I want to test to check a bit different avenues, let's say. But I don't think the sound is that bad. Honestly, the volume is higher than it used to be in the past years, at least in the older years. The track is cleaner. I also kind of speak better at large. I found a way not to sort of breathe on the microphone, this kind of sound, and I think we're going to improve. This is the trend on Schwerpunkt. Everything has been improving. Going back to the views, what I was saying is that at large the engagement has increased. Also, part of the reason why probably some people complain about the aforementioned technical issues is that just the views have become more frequent. And I have people listening to me from years that had they ever heard that noise and had it find it particularly annoying, would have told me, would have not followed me to begin with. I'm surely losing people because of that at some level, but it doesn't seem, statistically, considering the infrequency of the comments, such a big deal. But I'm planning again to work on it, and so to improve everything as I can. So here, let's simply look at the last 90 days stats. So as I was saying, February is not really the best month of the year in general to check to evaluate the current, at least the last 30 days or whatever, when February will be over, performance. We had lots of views during the Christmas holidays, especially at the beginning of January. This happened also because I began to make a bit of sort of slightly different videos from the usual. I increased a bit the specials. That's perhaps the most noticeable thing that started from, I think, last September, when I began to more strategically upload and publish with a very specific timeline certain types of videos, exploiting essentially, especially the natural greater amount of views that occur in those months. The specials have become like 2 to 5 compared to the rest of the comment. Like on Saturday and Sunday, when eventually there are more people around during the week, I try to concentrate the best videos there and to make them a bit more shocking, like I don't know, much more straightforwardly sort of bigger topics for a I don't know, general, for example, ethnic presentation of peoples. Yesterday I made that video about the italics. Last week I made that video about Tacitus Germans at Similia, right? So I don't have an infinite amount of those. Those are made in different ways. I think the first kind of that was the one about the 30 Years War Commanders that I uploaded in September, the end of September. Essentially, it's based on a new concept. I will not spoiler you the kind of actually the many ideas that I have, and I will cover all this stuff by a certain degree. I have, of course, specials belong also to series that I make, some of which I started but don't upload new videos about from quite frequently, for all a series of reasons that are fundamentally not, I mean, they are strategic, but they're not so planned, right? It depends also on how the channel goes. I have made lots of, for example, health episodes that may not look like that because they aren't presented as such. Usually when I make episode 1, episode 2, I insert it in the video, but say they are, when I will make the second part, I will say, well, this is connected to that video I made at some point, but it's not quite a mere continuation. Like if I did, for example, I don't know, like I made a video about a battle, right? I wouldn't split it into uploading the second half, I don't know, 4 months later. Like that's not going to happen. The reason is a bit of an experimentation I'm carrying out because I understood, of course, the potential of more strategic thinking on YouTube, which, as you know, I never followed very thoroughly, because were I to enact strategies to simply get more views to go viral, I could imagine uploading crazy stuff just for the sake of the subscribers and views, but I think that it would go essentially against my own ethos, and I don't say, of course, this is YouTube, but I say we have a trust bond of sort whereby you are accepting fundamentally the narratives that I use to explain history. I made lots of videos, really, especially last year. I mean, the year before last, about the sense of ideology, like how it informs history and what is fundamentally that I'm doing on YouTube. Because many people think essentially that if I load, particularly on a specific subject or theme, or at least I explore it in a particular way, this means that I'm sort of ideologized or whatever. And essentially that means you're saying false things, you're saying wrong things that are basically not history, they are just your preconceived notion. As I explained many times, I use the term ideological. I'm a bit of a, not a troll, but I like to provoke people in some ways, and I use a very specific language. I explained many times the etymology and probably the meaning of the term ideology, which is completely neutral and does not actually hint at anything that is rigging sort of objectivity in a willful and sort of scattered and counterfeiting and, you know, sort of misleading fashion, right? Every narrative can be accused of having some of that, but the point is that there is no person, not as a way of saying, but literally in a neurocognitive biological sense, capable of explaining anything, like even just asking for something to a friend or whatever, without having a narrative and without having an ideology. And of course, I make particular, say, content that is very, yesterday, for example, that is today actually when I'm recording, many people do not accept, I don't know, that the italic peoples use swastikas, right? That's one of the things that I would, exactly for that, upload a thumbnail. By the way, there are also pictures in it, especially for the Sam nights, with, but check any kind of, just Google Samnitic warrior, and you, even without saying swastika, and you will find all the swastikas that you want in that sense. And you know that's exactly the moment in which I will upload a thumbnail, which there is a beautiful Italic warrior with a swastika painted on their shields, as iconographic sources tell us that is the case. So if that is ideological, in spite of the fact that I quite openly and explicitly made multiple videos about National Socialism, calling it out for its failure and its fundamental anti-traditional mistakes that people still consider to be instead, I don't know, the top, level of, superiority or Indo-European legacy. You see, the problem is not mine. The problem is yours, right? But this is something I say, and I say yours in the sense of those who criticize me. I know that my audience is very disciplined and supportive and whatever, very often also for the wrong reason, right? I'm sure that I'm getting lots of subscribers that see, I don't know, a swastika on the thumbnail, say this is the guy who is actually making covert nationalistic socialistic propaganda for just because he is part of the thing or something. But the problem being, like, I made so many videos at this point that address this very specific purposes in clearly explicit sense, literally criticizing the wall and explaining exactly what I'm doing, that at this point any kind of criticism becomes a sort of weird rant that I'm also not going to tolerate on my channel. For example, I make often lots of videos on that I didn't receive much of that, actually. Yes, at least I don't know, because this has just started now, so there are a few people who have ever commented. But you always know that there is going to be death. You know, it's just like in history. Like, you always know that the hints, the evidence, at the end of the day, always points, surprise, surprise, to that narrative. But for example, whenever I make I don't know, Catholic, papal content, etc., I realize that some of you are slightly, like, first of all, either you can be Catholic yourself in the, say, conventional Christian sense and whatever, and you're supported, etc. But even there, make these videos and you always know in advance that there is someone who doesn't like this, and that, however, can't find any kind of sort of hanger on criticizing the content. Because if I make, I don't know, like yesterday, a video on the Fourth Lateran Council, and I explain essentially what the whole thing was about in historical perspective, in the merit of the content, etc. Of course, I think that the average person or beyond, like maybe just a person out of 50 knows or maybe one out of 100, assuming that we're talking actually some sort of upper level pool of people. I want to, however, to be relatively generous here, will know what the Fourth Lateran Council was about, why was it about that, etc. But you always get the guy who doesn't like that you even talk about Christianity or that you talk about the papacy, because I know that I talk to an audience that the background of which has been particularly informed of a specific hatred, a specific, of course, lack of any kind of education on the subject, but also the sense that that topic threatens their own self-assumed sort of cultural relevance for some sort. For example, I eliminated a comment. I didn't block the guy, but for example, I immediately make the video about Fourth Lateran Council. There is the guy who goes find in the related videos the various topics that interest him, and one is the donation of Constantine. All right, I made a video. It was from 6 years ago. I checked today exactly because I got that comment, and I also explain you how I deal with censorship and how I do it. Because you see, I could be silent and say, okay, I simply block, delete, whatever. But I'll tell you what happens and why I don't like a specific thing, the content of which must be contextualized. Otherwise, that's always the thing. A comment that comes there to smear, to lie, to deny, whatever, verse that is immediately read, because that's unfortunately how YouTube works. Under a 2 hours long video, immediately is the person watching is worth the comment remaining, maintaining that lie and not listening to the comment. And this example is perfect because it demonstrates it 100%. So in that video about the donation of Constantine, I also read quite a bit about, telling the truth, especially back in the day. It was fresh from that. I made that video. It was at the beginning of Schwerpunkt. Said something like, but, it was like a forgery. Like, that's BS. Like, the idea behind... I acquired a certain sensitivity of how this system operates. Like, the person sees, at a cognitive level, the person sees the video, has heard somewhere, also as an anti-papal hatred cliche, that the donation of Constantine was a forgery. Hence, the entire papacy should be invalidated, even though the donation of Constantine in that sense has nothing to do with the way the papacy gets actually validated, without knowing that in the video I explained not just the fact that the donation of Constantine was a forgery, because the video was also largely about that, but the person commenting that by saying, oh, but it was a forgery, like, didn't even know that because had not listened to the video. You see how sort of chicken-brained these people are. I can't help but saying this. Like, I'm the one who makes the video. Like, I have control on this stuff. How can you be so dumb? And especially, what kind of purpose is there to behave like this? Like, if you have personal issues, solve them. I say you're not going to solve them by doing this. You're not going to get more points. Like, imagine, like, that is the level. You click on videos without even watching them to claim, like, it was a forgery, without knowing that the video talks explicitly about that. And even more, talks explicitly about the fact that it was the same papal humanistic work at the end of the Middle Ages, notoriously, the famous Lorenzo Valla, who wrote an entire, after having researched the history of the donation of Constantine, wrote a treatise. This was a papal humanist that was paid for doing that explained how that was a forgery. And that's the same papal source in which we study how it was a forgery, was doing it for the papacy that, of course, didn't need, at that point, in that document that has, instead of, and that's also what the video was about, an incredibly interesting history throughout the Middle Ages, how it came to be. Something that, by the way, is still, it was not used in the Middle Ages in the way you think, at least conventionally, people hear this hearsay that was used by the papacy to simply legitimize their own authority, their own primacy, etc. Can I maintain a comment like this that doesn't add anything to the video, that doesn't even know what's in the video, that gets things wrong without context, without even knowing the actual history that I talk about for hours in the same video? Well, the question is, that's the kind of people that I don't need, especially because they're adversarial, right? It's not like they pose a challenge, as you understand, but that's exactly why there is no need to even, to allow this presence, like this contribution to it, right? If I had wanted to hide this, I would have not even said it. I could take screenshots, like showing to you for that. But I took, actually, over the years, some screenshot about a topic that is, it's another, let's not open that other can of worms, because that is really an issue, but I will need to address this in due time. And this is mostly to explain, as I was doing in the beginning, what I'm actually doing on this channel and what kind of information I presented, how I presented. I've had the suspicion, I have checked, and I haven't come to a definitive conclusion. However, the chronological timing is striking, that somebody may have, let's put it in this way, taken an inspiration from one of my videos, and since I couldn't confirm this in a sort of broader philological sense from the YouTube's transcript, I will not say essentially. I think I said it the other day in one of my finales. However, it may happen. Were such a thing to happen, for real, I don't know what policy to pursue. Of course, I would call this out. We're on another. I should be particularly sure, of course, of that. As you know, I don't make video responses. I don't get into sort of general feuds. But I would say that sooner or later, my channel is going to get the attention also of bigger actors. Let's put it in this way, not necessarily other YouTube channels, But at this point, like, I know that YouTube changes. It morphs into sort of a different community, at least for the level, the scale of, for example, engagement, entertainment. We have reached 25,300 subscribers. So I'd say when I started, I can't say that this would have been a number like this would have been a particularly successful channel, but it would have been sort of more relevant at the time than today. We are growing at a relatively slow pace. In this 90 days, we haven't gotten even 2,000 subscribers. However, it happens. This is particularly true because, again, in February things normally dry up, otherwise we would have had them. The watch length, the views, however, have remained relatively steady. We've been above 4,048 hours for a long time, which was unprecedented, just without effort, even without any particular special and without any particular wave of previous views. So the channel is headed towards a breakthrough. I realized that the more videos I make, sort of the greater the reach. It may be that, I don't know, a video gets in the moment just a few views, and sort of the algorithm doesn't recognize it. As I was saying before, there is this first days of views from you, and then I didn't complete the thing because I always digress. The second day, basically, YouTube, on the basis of that, shows this content to an audience that is potentially interested in that, and at that point, if it clicks, the video gets sort of viral. At least it gets, again, more advised, more suggested to a larger pool of users that also had never heard of you. This is the problem of my channel. It's always been the same. Like that, aside from, of course, the inherent limits of my own content, the way it is presented graphically, whatever, many people would actually subscribe, but they don't know that I even exist because YouTube does not show it to other people. So it's not really much the fact that this is an archaic looking channel and that there is a lot, of course, that, presents with some perplexity from those who say, but why are you doing this way? Couldn't you find something a bit more, kicking? Isn't this some sort of, waste of time, whatever? I have my reasons for wanting this, for behaving like this. Surely there is a great deal of competition out there, and I realize that people are fundamentally not interested in the type of content that I provide, in that sense of viral. They're sort of let's click on it because we must know what it is. Sometimes, however, I do remain impressed by the fact that, I don't know, you can have admittedly much bigger channels making videos like, I don't know, 8 minutes long, saying how were soldiers motivated to climb ladders during siege assaults and getting, I don't know, millions of views. A video lasting literally 8 minutes that can't even but list basically the reason why, yes, soldiers would do that, but without technically explaining much. And I, by making particularly accurate videos about different topics, really of various nature, but that are very much in-depth, researched, much more sort of just military historically accurate. You know what my background at large is, so it's not like I need to sponsor myself more than much, but the sense remaining always the same. Why do you essentially why would you watch, for example, a video like that rather than mine? That is sort of difficult to understand, and I can't say I blame it on the fact that the stuff is not shared enough, but let's say, because I've never done it, to me, like, the level of general engagement that I receive is amazing to this day. Like, I see, of course, other channels saying, oh my god, they're much more successful than yours, than mine. You it's self-evident, whatever. But at the same time, I look at from my own individual perspective, and I say, well, the fact that I really have thousands of people routinely watching every day for thousands of times my content, regardless also of how that sort of like may come from different people at a time, or these kind of things, is amazing. Like, I can't say, well, this is a loss, I don't like it, whatever. The point, though, is that, again, were my content to be more watched, more shared, I think we would get quickly very far, right? I'm not kidding, especially with 25,000 subscribers. I don't say we can simply make videos of hundreds of thousands of views in a week, in a few days, but we can start getting somewhere in a more coherent, in a more consistent way, I think. And that's essentially what would simply also help the channel to improve. Like, if you aren't satisfied, for example, by my technical means, I am motivated enough to make the kind of content I make, because at the end of the day, this is just like a podcast. So whether you have pictures, I mean, let's be honest, you're not children. At least I don't treat you like children, and you know that, because I can be quite harsh at times, because I think to be dealing with adults, right? But if the point is just, the general technical face, I don't believe you, right? Because I would watch. Of course, I understand that my channel is not really sympathetic. Like, the fact that I'm here, that I make thousands of videos, that I sound as if I were a know-it-all, even though I don't really act like that. At least I'm very critical. I'm very polemical, I'm very confrontational. So that is more than else the bitter note that maybe some people do not find interesting. But then what are we even talking about? There is also the aforementioned attitude, as before, that is also the one that sort of spread on the internet, that is, who's this guy, where he gets the information from, is he reliable, is an authentic source? You discover, I personally discovered that there are people who literally do not know the meaning of basic elementary historical terms, like as if being an authentic source. What is an authentic source? Excuse me, authentic in history normally means something that literally is the literal source that we think it is from a particular time in the past. All right, this improper insult towards conventional and pure language, by authentic now we mean, legitimate, authoritative, or whatever. It's frankly distasteful, and it leads nowhere, because it's deeply like. It's a sort of firework, entertainment kind of language, right? If it doesn't sound, it's just like the videos. If it doesn't look good, people would not click on that, would not use it in general, even though maybe what's in it is actual garbage, and or at least very poorly researched thing. But if this is in fact the average level of, say, the average origin of pseudo, at this point, historical interest, just knowing that this is not history. This is just some sort of psychosis, and I'm, of course, not going to ever do any favor to such actual narrative and ideology. You see, narratives and ideologies can be right and wrong, right? Being historically accurate, being competent, being expert, being, proper, like being reliable in the measure in which you actually tell things on the basis that of stuff that you can check, even if you don't cite it directly, or if it is just coming from your own academic memory, in as much as you work or study the stuff. I personally gone on in my own historical kind of competence through Schwerpunkt, largely acknowledging that most of the way people connect with it, this is extremely useful, like using YouTube, like it really shows you how people connect with history, how the average person that also would be more likely to to engage with historical content on YouTube, they do not do it because they want or need or think that it would be useful to have a comprehensive historical understanding, being able to understand by themselves, as there are people who, in fact, are the ones who defend me on the internet, saying, this guy may not, I don't know, I often cite sources, quote them, etc., so it's not really a mystery what I'm doing. Also because when I do it with primary sources. I can refer to a scholar, I can refer to a particular current, whatever. Those are all fact-checkable things. And if you say something historically correct, that stays correct, right? Even if you don't cite it. Kantorovitz famously wrote his masterpiece about Frederick II without any actual citation, without a bibliography at the end. And he eventually wrote that because at university they obliged him to write, because he had used them. Of course, he was that knowledgeable. And of course, that became a masterpiece, but it would have stayed a masterpiece and probably had the success it had, even had it not been reformulated, hadn't been added that formal bibliographical best, right? And this is something apparently that people are ever more detached from. I mean, at large, it seems to me that YouTube is pullulating with, at large, like content that, of course, is relatable. Like, I'm not saying that it's sort of relatably valid, right? If I look at the bigger, I don't watch the bigger channels. I don't watch, actually, I watch some channels. They have nothing to do with history, frankly. But, of course, I cross routinely some, not more than much, because I sort of put them down in the home feed. But whenever I see anything that is uploaded by a bigger channel, saying, okay, well, I understand what the topic is uploaded, it's probably interesting, the video may last just typically, 15 minutes, so I highly doubt that anything consistent, especially making people understand the importance, the validity of this, what it was actually about, how it worked in depth, is not there. But at least, it talks history, and so it's positive, and surely the scripts are somehow researched, they refine themselves over time. I hope so. I honestly, again, I don't watch the stuff, but a few times I did at some point. The impression at large was that some topics are especially created to get a specific target. So just to make an example, there is this weird, it belongs a bit to the self-sabotaging side of civilization. For example, when talking about the Crusades, I will not make any names here, but I think you all know what I'm talking about. This is, I think, the largest YouTube history, partly military history channel on YouTube, will make the sort of whiny narrative of, the Crusaders came because they were just greedy and wanted to conquer, and the Muslims just were the passive, poor subject of the story, which is frankly insulting to the same Islamic civilization in many ways. But it's the narrative. I mean, these videos are made first and foremost not on the historical accuracy of them, but primarily on the narrative, which is the exact opposite of what I do. I extrapolate the narrative out of historical evidence, which is the most obvious thing you want to do, and that's the most beautiful one, because you can't simply fall back on the evidence and say, look, this is how it was. If you don't like it, it's not my problem. Just study it yourself, and that also makes you aware of what people objectively do not know and why. And so it also trains you to spot, because I've always liked to do this on my own. It always helps you spotting how how that person thinks, and why is that they don't know what you clearly see that they don't know. Right? Not realizing simply that they don't know, but realizing immediately why. Ideologically, culturally, education, why they don't know, they don't understand that concept, or they're simply unaware of its existence. But it's always revealing of their actual background. There's nothing more straightforward than understanding somebody's historical, sort of political background from, for example, their historical interest. And it's become so cheap and banal and sad, because people are objectively collapsing in any cultural, educational, and mental standard. I don't think there is any doubt of this. We know it pretty well. It's been going on for half a century now. It's all very well studied and registered. And I'm more worried of the fact that, and actually I'm also curious, because like, how does actually a civilization that doesn't have a cultural background really see history? How would they represent it? What kind of... You do find every once in a while on the internet people that give legitimate answers to specific historical issues you can relate with, etc. But at large, we all know that the wide majority is a fair of cliches. And I remember which Facebook page the other day was recommended to me, one of those that just show memes of medieval ancient stuff. It's a no-brainer kind of, kill the time, make the historical joke. However, you do have the pretty inaugural idea of clicking into the comments, and you find this: everybody has, first of all, an opinion that they can express in 2 lines of how big historical changes occur, which is very interesting. And at that point, frankly, it's not like I'm much interested as a historian. I'm interested as a psychologist of sort, because I think that also history trains you to be that. Like, you immediately understand what these people are going for. You immediately understand what these people's problems in life are, where that concept stems from, on the basis of what they look like, where they come from, why they say that, what kind of narrative is it, from where they have taken it, what is that they want to say. There is a rampant, there is a disgusting level of sort of self, in that sense, it's a really a fabrication, right? There is a level of historical fictionalism enforced as, or at least enforced, I mean shouted, at least on social media, as kind of, this is how things actually went. This is Alex Jones style of, we want to be right because we want to be right. So we have no other way to pretend to pretend to look right by stating that we are right, without actually, even maybe you're even, every once in a while you actually get it right, but you haven't the palest idea of what you're talking about, how you get there, how you provide evidence, how you actually put it together. And even more, I think at this point, you outright lie. There are people who are willing to simply go out there and say, this fact is diametrically opposed to what I think, because I am the right side that decides what this thing it basically is. And this is, as you know, I never criticized the left or liberals as a beyond far right-wing channel. That is so just a beyond far right-wing person rather than channel at this point, because that's the point I was making. Because I don't think that that's even worth being addressed, right? I've had, I don't know, even an interview, as you know, last year with Veritas Caritas, that is a Christian anarchist of sort, and is fundamentally a liberal, but not a leftist, and nice guy. We had really a great interview. Many of you have watched that, so you see, you can talk with intelligent people even though you disagree on so many things. And of course, that doesn't make it completely right. There's always some problem here, and I'm not specifically referring to that conversation. It was actually pretty clean. So that's how, like, a normal conversation was, and in which I also explain, in fact, how my channel does look in a certain way, but it's actually not. In fact, I think the guy did not even expect that I would say such things, because I was mostly thought to be like correctly a traditional conservative, or at least I never say like I'm this because I'm I would like to, if I am, I would like at least to be 100% or more coherently so, because that's also why I research history. But I find this has become essentially a traditionalist channel. It began like a conservative one with also some pretty sort of basic relatively late 20, early 21st century kind of educational sort of convention, in fact. But it did get traditionalist, not in the sense, however, that, again, I start with the intention of making, first of all, traditionalist history per se. I'm just the same guy who was trying to study history, and that obviously has to explain it. In the moment in which he explains that, of course, connects the dots and says, okay, this is a narrative, this is what it's evidenced by this, and I want to, if anything, highlight this aspect rather than another. There is no doubt. This is, even just by specialization choice, if I talk more about military history, it's obvious that I'm going to be formed in a different way from another historian. Is this ideology? Does it have to be ideological only when there is an historical, a political bias of some sort? Again, what is politically unbiased? I don't really know, right? And not in the sense, again, that so I can do whatever I want. On the contrary, I'm actually quite critical of any channel that makes stuff like that, especially even just to get views. Again, if I wanted to get views, 1 million views tomorrow, probably I wouldn't succeed doing so the first time, the second time, but sooner or later I would make it. I don't make really content in this sense styled on that expectation. I make content styled mostly on the completeness of my information, on the fact that you can sort of check everything I've done before, that essentially every statement, every idea, every kind of narrative that I use is based on my previous work that you can check, right? It's not like, of course, a certain ideology can form without, in fact, in this process, without some inaccuracy or some kind of incorrectness, but it's not like I decide that, right? Even subconsciously, I may slip towards a direction or another, but not say I don't state something that, or hide, for example, something that is not fitting the narrative. Proof the aforementioned video about the donation of Constantine, right? If I didn't want to put you see how people are. If I'm sure there are liberals of some sort that would come on my channel saying that I talk about, for example, a certain type of history of religion topics that tend to be, to have been heard as a general topic of interest in the academia, mostly talking about late antiquity, that kind of stuff. Okay, let's talk about this as a more like cultural phenomena, as a general literary issue, rather than a strictly religious one. I thought it would start listening to me, and probably wouldn't even realize that up to a certain point how truly traditional and conservative I am. Of course, the more recent content has taken outright the direction, in the sense that before I used to say, well, maybe this, maybe not. Today I have much clearer ideas than before. If anything, you realize how much stuff I uploaded, meaning that I learned the stuff every time to make the video, or at least I already knew some of it before, but there's always something new, and that adds up over the years to create a specific historical view. There is undoubtedly some level of prestige if you, in this endeavor, if you associate it to the fact that I have a doctoral background and that I publish in top tier journals, that I am currently the leading expert in my own field, and I can come here and say, okay, yes, I'm not even definitely an expert in other fields, but let's see what this is about, and let's speak our mind about this. I wasn't planning, drink a little. I wasn't planning to even talk about this so much, because we're starting, as always, from the analytics. But it's obvious that it all gets baked into it, right? This last 3 months have been fairly good. We had like a higher watch length than likely ever before. Well, not really. It was higher in September, October. That's admittedly true, but it is substantially above average. The number of views is average. The subscribers are slightly less than average, and this is a bit worrying for a couple of reasons. The channel has been growing, and it's been growing ever more autonomous. I mean, it has never grown. Let's give a simple check to... There has been a time which it would grow more, right? What I think happened at this point is that it's stabilizing towards a self-sustained growth that doesn't need any external impulse, right? And at a point, I think this is decreased. There were times in October 2023 which we got routinely several tens of subscribers a day. This is because the channel was publicized. There were people talking about this, and so it was much easier at that point. Then we gradually descended. Like, we rarely made we really reached a time in the last 3 months in which simply there were several thousand subscribers like nothing. We touched, I think it surpassed 60 in a day, which is not a few. And again, it's the growth is still around essentially 20 a day on a regular basis. So the channel is going somewhere. The problem, it seems to me, is that people again do not reach this channel point. They don't even realize it exists. And this is concerning because this is also what I noticed, that the actual watch length at large has increased. It is stabilizing on a precedentedly higher level. If you look at the broader narrative, let's say, of the channel, how it started, also how it was up to, say, what was this, last summer, right? We are doing well on that front, and we're doing well even on the front of views. So, and I realized that in the last couple of days that I've made a substantially, for example, high watch length amount of videos, but the views were not that high. This is strange because yes, my videos are longer than the average, and so the watch length is normally high. Consider this aspect. When you look at a channel like mine, it is loaded with very long videos. So even compared to a bigger channel, I have much less problems in terms of, let's find the, I don't know whether they even calculate the attention span that they're trying to seek there statistically. I don't reason like this. I make long videos just because the topic requires that, because I want to talk, I want to explain, which is exactly why people do not want to watch it, likely because it's too demanding. It's too, I say it, not, I don't think it's really a huge accomplishment. This is definitely much more intelligent content than the average. It doesn't take nothing to make it much more intelligent than the average, believe me. I'm not sort of flattering myself. I'm sort of taking the distance from the plebs, let's put it in this way. So nobody really knows how the algorithm works for optimizing a constant booming. However, it seems to me really that we're getting buried by other content. And let's be honest, like on YouTube there is really a lot. Probably that alone would explain it. However, I don't really believe, like looking at the whole amount of essentially history content on YouTube, also the kind of sort of more ancient medieval history based one, I'm one of the, I don't know how many, well, there are some tens of such channels that also upload much less regularly than me. As a consequence, the question is, I've never gotten this higher watch length before. The views are kind of okay, but they're not particularly high compared to other times, other moments. So what's the issue? What's behind that? I'm not much worried about this trend because I don't think the channel is going to get buried. I think that we are actually getting closer to a moment in which we will get higher and higher sooner and faster. And we will simply say this because there is such an enormous amount of content that people are going to find it in a way or another. I've been using other say tricks of some sort, like I've been inserting proper tags with AI in every kind of playlist description, which was quite useful, frankly, because I of course check what kind of tags are inserted, and once you have gotten the right pattern with the right input, it's easy. I have over 600 playlists, so that seems actually a quite fruitful thing to do. And in fact, I think I've seen an increase of some sort. I've been doing this very recently, so I can't really look at it from just the analytics here. In the past days, I did get higher playlist length, but watch length, but it may not be essentially the thing. But if this is the case, if the videos are watched, people follow, people have this kind of now, okay, Schwerpunkt uploads stuff, even if they get these videos get in a day maybe just some 100 views, no more. However, in the following days, tendentially, aside from the different tastes that are historical tastes that are very bizarre and very biased and very sort of, in fact, historically distorted in many ways, and that's sadly normal, they're going to get watched over time, because mostly up to a month. If you follow me, you will have these among the suggested videos that are made up to 1 month before. This is how it actually works normally. After that, if the video has gotten enough views, it sort of gets a bit more algorithmic. It's thrown in the periodical suggestions every once in a while, otherwise they go to sleep, and you have to be just a dedicated follower to find it, or at least, maybe you find it from somewhere else. Ever more people are finding my content from the outside, from Google search, which is also very heartwarming in a sense, except you don't get too much watch length at that point. But people are getting, that's enough, they're getting more aware of the fact that they exist. Here, I think there have been some, part of the reason actually I'm noticing here is that there haven't been algorithmic videos that get watched as often as before. For example, there was this leading video that got me, I think, the largest amount of subscribers, 300, and a consistent income, etc. This was one of the earliest ones that I did. Terrible video, by the way, but it went algorithmic forever. Especially also last year was around, people kept watching it. Now in the last, I think, which days were these? Since October, nobody watched it anymore. The same goes for the others that at some point were a bit more viral. There was the one about the Franks that was watched for long, it's still watched, but not at the peak that it was, for example, last year. More or less right around this time that really peaked. I think it got like 100 views a day as an algorithmic one. Just, you see, that's YouTube. That's maybe that what happened. People made last year videos about the Merovingians, and I got a bit of trail views connected to that. But now people will see that, because many people have before me, nobody had ever made actual videos on Merovingians. It may be strange, but on YouTube it happened really that way. So what sadly happened apparently is that those channels got their higher places on the search, because they were sort of more elaborated videos graphically, etc. They weren't that much, but at least better than nothing. And so now the first views are going to be theirs, and I lost a bit that algorithmic level. The same goes for, what was their other video? Trans-Danubian Dacia. There was a time in 2023 summer in which it got so many views, something insane, like, I don't know, 300 or more in 48 hours without me doing nothing for it, right? And surely they got me lots of subscribers, etc. But it's not like there are others that now I could list, whatever. There still are, by the way. Let's see, which ones they are. I also kind of diversified a bit. It may be the fact that those were videos that had accumulated lots of views before. I hadn't had many other successful ones as those, and so if somebody followed me, those would be continuously watched. That's also the point. Today we have things like, okay, Guten Morgen, but this is from the home. It sort of doesn't count. It's just like 15 views a day. It's not that much. But for example, this must have, of course, become the ones on Bohemia recently got many views. But also, this was true also from the previous months. Kingdom of Bohemia, the 13th century. You see, it's not like that's not a good video, or it's not an average video really, but why would people watch this specifically? Also, considering that I think there are videos on medieval Bohemia, there may be a shortage of that, but medieval Brittany, this also was always watched to a degree. Duchy of Bohemia as well. These are from past years. Why the Mongols couldn't conquer Europe, to make a long story short. The Indo-European identities was from last year. Of the italics, the Hanseatic Lake video, the Condottieri video. This was a recent one, but it got algorithmic and medieval French nobility. The Landsknechten, these have faded also, but they had kind of double numbers. So I don't understand whether it's just because YouTube is getting saturated with similar videos and they can't find my own. And I think that's how the problem is happening. So the strange thing is also that channels that make these videos very often, like, make a video every 3 months. It's not like they are saturating by themselves. It just takes maybe one video for sort of distracting you from the fact that I have been covering a lot simply about the Landsknechten, for example. And that doesn't become algorithmic, in part because my channel was smaller, in part because of my technical shortcomings, or at least, again, rustic character of my video making. That may not be a good presentation card, but doesn't invalidate the historical content that it's presented, which you would hope that's what people are interested in historically wise, and is not really the case. Overall, however, as I was saying, it's not all that bad. Let's descend a little bit more into the especially the sources of views. Let's put it this way: sources of traffic, as YouTube puts it. So, as I was saying at the beginning, you have. Here, I'm also reading them in my original language, so I will term them perhaps in a slightly different way, but navigational functions. Alright, so in the last 3 months, let's say let's put it this way, since the update, there's been a lot of ups and downs, which I don't understand whether being related to the American elections and politics stuff that is happening. That is definitely entertaining. However, it's remained fundamentally high. As I was saying before, we've been also over 4,048 hours for a long time. Certain lows may have been avoided. This depends, however, largely on you. And the fact that this is getting so... Before it was more stable, right? Even when we had more or less the same amount, now it tends to go much more easily up and down. And I understand actually why that may be the case. Again, this continuous this distraction fundamentally leading to these ups and downs. However, that's fundamentally fine. As I was saying before, we reached this plateau that is largely made up by navigational functions that are roughly around 700 views a day. This would be largely the subscribers, so the most routine watchers. Then there's YouTube search. These are increasingly less important. I'm looking at views right now, not watch length, right? But we're going from top to bottom here. Overall, this has not been increasing too much in the last year. There's been a weird down throughout November, maybe again American elections. People have searched for me less. Right now we are around 300 views coming from YouTube search, which is not bad. Anyway, playlists have interestingly risen in a fundamentally steady way, right? The greatest rise was again in autumn 2023, but by now we are 200 views, let's say, a day, which is seemingly increasing, and it's good. Then channels pages, yeah, well, this start being not too crucial, but for example, suggested videos, they have been gradually going up. They all are similar in some way. Suggested videos again in September 2023 were particularly high. I don't know why. It's probably because more people were watching it at the time and YouTube sort of suggested them in some ways. External has sharply increased. As I was saying before, this does not bring too much watch length, a mere 2% of the total, but it does make above 5% of the whole. Maybe not too much, but it's still, basically, it's surpassing, it's steadily increasing. This is the thing that surprises me the most. And it's surpassing even the suggested videos, meaning that there are more people coming on my videos from, say, Google than YouTube itself suggesting them to the audience. So let's switch to watch length. We're not doing badly at all in this sense. I think watch length again has increased overall more than the views, and this watch length mostly is connected with this was high, very high. Well, it was high, particularly high. Yeah, I think when I made that video on the condottieri recently, but also in September it was. Then we can have weird lows from the aforementioned, always dominating its navigational function, so the most a bit away. Let's check YouTube search. This has brought actually to a slightly higher amount of watch length, probably because I'm making better videos at large. People want to know, they're more presentable. Playlists have fundamentally remained the same in terms of watch length. Just more people clicking on them apparently, but not necessarily watching more, because this is the total, not the average watch length. Then we've had a recent increase of advice videos. This is interesting as well. I don't understand why though, because this is from, well, yeah, okay, this was from the peak from January, so we are somewhere similar. Watch length has increased a little bit. Yeah, this is the general trend. Overall, we're getting, of course, some tens of millions of impressions, so my videos do circulate. What to say? We seem to arrive to a slight halt or slight stagnation, but it all depends on the kind of videos and why we are essentially making them. It may be again that I can't make always the special that people are going to watch, that is a hyper research thing that talks exactly about the thing that everybody wants to know. The specials also are not that much replicable about the same topic. I will not explain now because there haven't been actually many additions regarding the specials. It was more about specials 3 months ago than now. because also I get fairly good videos from the random cycle. So this is a good aspect. Mostly like you are also watching them more. You're taking me more seriously. For example, I made Papal history content recently, and I noticed that at large people are watching a bit more than before. So there is a good sign there that we managed to stiffen the rank of people who were more interested in ecclesiastical history. This would naturally happen just out of the sheer amount of content in that regard. So we're, the way I see it, we are, especially again, February is not such a particularly endowed month of the year, but we can think that things will go better. Normally this happens every year, even starting from March, to get much higher views, then stabilizing a bit, being big in May, end of May, June as well a bit, and then summer not being too great until September. What's the point of this all? The point is that we should accumulate enough subscribers to regularly push the content as high as possible, just on a routine basis, right? It's almost like a mathematical equation, because that's at the end of the day how the algorithm mostly works. I mean, not literally a simple equation, of course, but the sense is that if you get enough videos out there, you're going to have this critical mass that people are going to watch anyway. We're trying all the kind of best practice. I personally increased lots of different features on the channel. By the way, I want to thank all the members, because say I don't want to start by saying, okay, well, now let's talk to membership, just pay or whatever. The memberships are useful because they stiffen my income, and that's a motivational factor. Like if you want, as I was saying before, see Schwerpunkt grow, even though I'm trying my best to help it happening, the economic income is in that sense subconsciously a motivator. If I see here the income grow, I say, well, you know what, it's something that at least I can use next to my work. It's something I can fall back on. I have fun with it. I earn something. It helps. It doesn't revolve around that, but I want to thank, in fact, those who are doing this just not for free, because basically all my content is for free, aside from ads that are YouTube's imposition. As you know, I started them only after YouTube began to insert, unbeknownst to me, because when you start having enough views, YouTube does it, even if you don't have an ads account or something. So I inserted them. Mobilize. This is the best thing you can do, like sharing my content, also maybe getting into a fight for defending my points, the reason why we're doing all this and more is really beneficial to the channel. I know that many of you so casually found out of my existence. I know we have many new subscribers. Interestingly enough, over the years, I had ever less criticism about anything, right? I always had really few criticism about anything. I was at the beginning thinking, oh my god, I'm starting a YouTube channel going to talk about history, politics, religion. They're going to eat me alive. None of this. It's very easy and light to handle the whole thing, like even when you get criticized or people misunderstand you, or I don't feel any burden. Of course, I will engage then in sort of clarifications. I will explain things better. I will say your interaction contributes to define how I partially address the historical topic. That's an advantage, right? If you are more active in that sense, you will surely. I may not answer anyone because it's difficult. I get different messages, or really also on Schwerpunkt's sort of private email. I gets lots of comments, so it's not easy to answer everyone. But if I'm reading everything fundamentally, so if you are really, if you want to suggest anything, I'm always indirectly, maybe implicitly, going to address that in a way or another, either by action, by word. It depends on what it is. I haven't done too many question and answer videos recently. Those are a bit sort of kind of extras. Sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't. It really depends on the topic. But the more you ask, the more likely it is for me to answer. I don't know how you really see what I'm doing, meaning that whatever, let's say, we are up to here, it is going to be relatively controversial, meaning that it's unlikely that everybody can understand everything, or that there's not going to be a quid pro quo, and there is going to be some kind of very different perception of what this is about, considering the general role. As always, seems exposure, meaning the more this channel attracts sort of even criticism or whatever, the better it is. So publicizing the channel, I don't know, sharing it with some kind of artificial intelligence commentary on the script or whatever, can be useful. Paradoxically, you see, when there are these kind of activities, the main issue is hoping not to get misunderstood in a way or another, right? However, at the end of the day, it's better for this stuff to be commented on rather than being lost in oblivion. That will eventually adjust things even when people misunderstand, right? So I think that's quite important. I don't see too much today. I actually would have liked to make other kind of more regular content, but I habituated myself a bit too much to have this sort of specials, and sometimes they are demanding to the point that I tend to get exhausted, say, okay, well, like yesterday, I just have to read a script. It's easy. Then, the day after I want to relax, I have to make another big video, I have to prepare mentally. Sometimes it's better just to maintain the original rhythm. So it may be that even though I will, of course, continue making specials, I will dilute them a little bit, seeing what happens. Like if there is something sturdy, it depends on how the channel fares. Before, I used to make specials only to ride the wave a little bit, depending on how the whole trend went. There are so many also demanding videos that require a bit more preparation, so sometimes I manage to prepare multiple extra videos a day. Most of the problem is the image. Like the script is relatively easy to put together, to modify, to integrate, to elaborate further, and in any case we sort of address it in the moment, right? So most of my content revolves around the analysis, the criticism, everything. I don't need but a sketch fundamentally just to make a video. Some recent specials were about this longer scripts. I'm testing that, but I don't like it that much. I would go back to the more traditional stuff. However, I can't eliminate the specials either, because some of the ideas are very good, and honestly I wouldn't know how to make the video but in that format. Sometimes, especially if it's a list of particular figures, I will not spoiler what I had in mind to do, but the experiments have been fundamentally successful. One thing that I was impressed by, is that, when was it, on here, January the 31st, I made a video titled "The Frankish Management and Recompaction of the Vast and Scattered Estates Across Europe During the 8th Century." It was just a meager an hour and a quarter long video about, more or less Carolingian Europe and how certain patrimonial dynamics were occurring, what kind of it looked also a bit at logistics and communications, of course, like the interpolation of power, say public power and private ones, etc. Typically Frankish context. This was not meant to be any special type of video. It was from a branch of the cycle that basically deals with, in fact, this more societal aspects. But I suspect that, I don't know what, like the thumbnail is also pretty simple and archaic. The title is, pretty basic, also long. People have to go read what it is. I don't know what it was. Where it was the thumbnail, or the fact that the video began with the video title with the word Frankish, and people are sort of obsessed with the Franks. Like if I talk about the Carolingians, nobody says anything. But if I insert the ethnic term Frankish, everybody watches it. I made, for example, that was actually a beautiful video about Carolingian and Ottonian knightly dubbing. It was powerful. It went almost unwatched. I make this video that is supposed to be just a generic overview on certain administrative aspects of the Frankish Empire. Everybody watches it. It would be clearer if you knew sort of kind of the background of these videos, how I make them, how I think the topic. Like it's weird. Like the one about dubbing is cooler. There is all the imperial tradition in it. There is the religious element, holy war. We cited lots of sources, quoting them explicitly, and generally speaking, like articulating the whole thing in a very deeply comparative fashion. It was such a great video in the way I structured it, and just for the topic, objectively, the thumbnail wasn't bad either. Nobody would watch it. Why? I don't know. The same goes for the Anglo-Saxon evangelization. While it is true that some of you have asked me over the years to talk more about the evangelization, and mostly the one of Germany for some reason, I said, okay, this is going to be the typical ecclesiastical history video that nobody will watch because I'm mostly habituated to that. He said this got, I don't remember how many, like, 1,500, 1,600 views, I don't know. I know you can't pretend to precisely calculate how many people are gonna watch this, whatever. Sometimes it's weird because some videos are going to be watched further down the line than others. So some may make the boom at the moment, and others just and basically fading, right? And sometimes some others will pop up once again. For example, this one about the Fourth Lateran Council also surprised me relatively because it didn't make really many views, but for being a papal history video, it sort of resurged. Why? Maybe because I talk about medieval Catholic superiority, so maybe because the thumbnail was decent. I don't know. But you have all this weird, for example, the medieval Western European infantryman video I made the other day. Now, I understand that many of you do not seem to be particularly sensitive to military history, which is paradoxical because I'm an expert and a PhD in medieval tactical, medieval battles, reconstruction fundamentally. You would have sort of the best insight. We talked about lots of interesting things in that video, but people think, I don't know, because that's the only way. The thumbnail was pretty cool as well. This is just spearmen, I don't like them. Like, at this level. Just, I don't know what they think the video is about, right? But it's a deep, thorough analysis of 12th century Western European infantry in general, not just like the equipment, as most people think that warfare gets down to, thanks to reenactors and immists at large. But maybe it's exactly because it's a way more challenging video talking about the art of war and talking about, again, diachronic and comparative analysis of the topic in across all the Western European countries. Maybe it's too challenging. I don't know. There's a bit of a disappointment. What else? Also, the one about the Germans of Tacitus did not really make too much. This one about the italics is going to make more. I see it from here. This one boomed just because there is, again, the swastika on it. Let's be honest. That's the only reason why people would actually click on it at this point. Yep, mostly that's the kind of stuff. And sometimes I don't get what people want, really. Also because you never say that, apparently. There is, of course, a general appreciation towards stuff I do, but it's not like it's so widespread to the point of simply sort of creating consensus of people asking me, look, I want this specific theme to be covered. Or whenever people ask that, they're usually either stuff they've already made, to a degree that's really typical. Like, do you maybe have a video? Why don't you search that? You know, is it that difficult? I don't know. Like, it's absurd. I mean, maybe it's because I come from a university background, but you before making this question to search by yourself, I mean, that's kind of the obvious. What do you want to be spoon-fed like kids about this stuff? Or it's just absurd topics that nobody cares about, or just they're so ultra specific that you believe that I make niche content. By the way, if I make niche content, because I mostly actually cover pretty important topics that everybody also should know. The question is, you know, can we be a bit more real about the fact that this channel is talking a bit of important things, for example, like you may never know. You may never know. It may be. Speaking of my own bias, because otherwise it seems like that I'm the tyrant. I may be biased, especially towards what I think other people do on the internet, because of course there is always a degree of denial, right? You don't want to know whether your precious ideas that surely are, you know, well based on a historical bedrock may be, however, known by other people and treated in the same way. Surely you don't find on YouTube somebody that does what I do. All right, nobody talks for hours about all these various topics and analyzes them in that sort of comparative way. However, let's simply search for example, today I made a video about the Italic peoples that are one of the most important topics you can make. Right now, I'm searching Italic peoples on the YouTube engine, and I get only this kind of results. There isn't even people, there is just, it tells me, well, Italian peoples, at least, yes, there is, but it comes after Italic calligraphy language. Well, okay. So languages before peoples, by the way. Language before history, before ethnicity, before whatever. And let's write P, so it's Italic peoples. Yes, peoples, but there aren't many results. And we get here what? Just for saying who makes what on the internet, there is, this guy made a video 9 years ago and used one of the pictures that I used myself in one of the videos. These are from Wikimedia Commons. And he's one of the few guys that, yeah, because this is Wiki Audio. And says, license, in fact they insert all the picture license. And this is actually, because this is what Wiki audio does. It's always the same image, isn't it? Yeah, it's all the same video, the same 8 minutes long. This is from an article of Wikipedia for sure. Then there is this I will okay, I will not say. Oh wow. I'm wowing at the fact that there is my own content first after this, but it's likely because I'm looking this through my own account. Let's look at it. Excuse me. Let's change account. Let's use an account that nobody ever uses. Okay, let's choose this. I have, I think, 3 accounts. Yeah, at this point. Let's search for italic peoples. Come on. Okay, actually, my videos do stand out. They do not get really a lot of views. We see here, yeah, I got almost 5,000 for the Indo-European identity, Romano-Italic people, however. This other one, however, the nature of Romano-Italic warfare, has only 700 views. There is this one of the Italic people's 2,000 views. This 9 years ago, Wikipedia made one. Then there's this Italy Before Rome. This is a well, okay, I gave away the title so you can check that out. And this is a channel that apparently makes a lot of its, visual effect based on some sort of 3D, but otherwise sort of very plain. And I imagine easily replicable images of essentially physical map of, like in this case, it's the Italian peninsula. And it lasts only 9 minutes. It's a very famous channel, by the way. It has almost 50,000 views, this video. And so it's the Italy Before Rome and whatever, the Roman Chronicle, and okay, you can't say in 9 minutes anything about Italic peoples. This is what I was saying before. I normally don't like to criticize specific channels, but you can't make a video like this. I mean, I make you, like, the nature of Romano-Italic warfare between the 5th and 4th century BC. 2 hours long video. This is the actual content that you should look at, because it's the only one. You see, I just searched. On YouTube, this is factually the long one. Then there is practically nothing. There is Eternal Struggle Between Germanics and Italics, which is a pretty successful video, over 200,000 videos, dating from 10 years ago. I don't know whether this guy is even active anymore. Oh, actually, he is. And he has only 700 subscribers. These are the weird things. He has made 100 videos, and he has just like this video made 200,000 views, and he has so few subscribers. So actually, having 25,000 doesn't look that bad, except I made much larger amount of work than him, and again, he didn't get much back, but probably more in relative terms. Origin and History of the Italians, that has 1.6 million views, and frankly, it's not so interesting, and actually looks like one of those sort of weird 19th century style, socially Darwinistic videos. Then this one was made surely with AI. Yeah, 3 minutes, 5 months ago. This is what I was talking about. Germanic, Celtic, and Italic branches of Indo-Europeans separate. Then there is this one on the Samnites from 1 year ago, from Idiot Talks History, which is the actual name of the channel. And this is 14 minutes long. This is typical, more or less successful format. 16,000 views. 16,000 views. We were the Samnites. But this is not the Italic peoples, meaning, yes, the Samnites were Italics, but it's not like this video is on the Italic peoples as a whole. probably my own video will be featured tomorrow in this list. It's the time. I hate this one, but you see, this gets so many views just because it's a 2 minutes long cartoon. The time the Italians rebelled against Rome, this is the social war. It's just a bunch of cartoons, also poorly made. People watch this stuff. This is for kids. I can't think. This is Urich Ins, whatever the name is. And I know it's a very successful channel. Often makes videos about Italian history. But it's all like a meme and a cartoon fundamentally. And then what else? There were more than 90 knowing Italic tribes in ancient times. This is a 4 years long. But you see, it's even interesting to look at this stuff. This kings and generals. These guys asked me to write their scripts for Monet. No, like it's not like I've been rude to them or with them. Etruscans, Italian civilization before ancient Rome. 20 minutes. A lot of cartoons for 4 years ago. It's actually pretty flat cartoons. So I don't know what you can say in 20 minutes about the Etruscans. It may be a successful video, of course it is. In terms of also engagement, but here you see how much is there on the italics? Practically nothing. Here the Goths, the Celts, who were the Ligurians. I made a video myself about the Ligurians. The Etruscans. Basically there is nothing about Italic peoples. I may be the only person that actually deals with this. And this is seriously disappointing. This is the kind of subnormal historical and cultural and educational level that we are all unfortunately acquainted with. This is a major historical topic and nobody gives a damn about that. A major, but I mean major meaning that we're talking about the most influenced ethnicity in the world. History. So it's insane. It's utterly insane, the fact that we do not have this reference. But this is just for telling you how YouTube goes, right? It may be that there are even these few videos about the italics because people do not even recognize the importance of them, and so YouTube adapts because YouTube does this. YouTube ads do actually pay for topics that are registered as more clickable in a way or another. So this is weird because basically ads have some kind of awareness, at least the ads owners, whatever, maybe through the same YouTube, of what kind of preconceived notion and bias exists among viewers to say how relevant is this topic gonna be. See, you search the Italic peoples. If I make Celtic peoples, here I have a plethora of results. Italic peoples, I barely have a few. Germanic peoples, identical. So it's very weird. I don't know how even to address in terms of severe cultural issues, but here we are. Let's check if there is some weird comment from my Italic history video, because, you know, we have seen how people freak out because I make videos with some knights with swastikas. Probably not going to even read this. This is a guy says, in the video you can see many photos of Maiello and my native land, Valdis, Hungary and Abruzzo. Thank you. Well, okay. This is another positive one. This is another, but I allow them, of course. See, I don't have any broader issue. Like, for example, I can say this video I like of mine particularly as well, because it was sort of mashed together. I was just reading. It's not like me. Surely at some point I will make another video about these peoples that fundamentally analyzes things a bit in a way more critical way. In fact, I can't spoiler this. I'm making something about the religion of the Italic peoples at some point, because it seems to me like a very important topic at large. So you know what? Like I'm fairly satisfied about the whole trend. I can't say that we're looking at a dramatic success in terms of views and booming and whatever. However, right, we are getting somewhere with it. Let's just wait and see. I can't say anything else. Usually I don't like this part of the year. I like autumn a lot. I like spring. But I was born in summer, but there's okay, here it's just, secondary issues. All right. So yeah, I think it fits the general temper of the time. People are exhausted. People don't even probably watch YouTube as much as before. Or at least maybe they do, but just the interest is a bit more scattered. And that's it. Right. What else do we wanna discuss? I don't think there is too much. Like I'm sure there is something a bit more to watch, because it's weird stuff. Yeah, sure, there is something on this. This is interesting. Like what people actually watch besides or next to, or basically during my own same, in parallel to my own content, tendencies, which is slightly horrible. What people search. This is interesting. Who oppose German unification? Why? I don't know how they. This is essentially YouTube telling you, look, there are people that are searching for this stuff. Right. And you have this stuff, Germanic kingdoms in the Middle Ages. Surprise, surprise. Germany and Italy unification history, that also never really understood. This seems to me like American students that are searching for, insight on sort of basic European history, and they don't really. Unification of Germany and Italy, UPSC, which I don't know what it is, but surely has some kind of scholastic meaning of some sort. And from there on, it says even scarce interest in this specific topic. So why are you showing that? This 1 week ago, Medieval Times discovered 20 minutes on how medieval peasants survived freezing winters. This is, I don't know how many times I heard this. It seemed like the dumbest concept ever. Like, how would, especially also medieval peasants, as if, like ancient peasants or modern peasants didn't, I don't know, they had radiators preventing them from, and you have this sort of beggar looking person in the Middle Ages that looks like this was created with grok. I have, how can people, and says copy them on their, and there's a guy with a mantle on, yeah, which is exactly what I have now, on, which I don't need to know from the Middle Ages. I didn't know that. I discovered when I was a kid. And this is so weird. This is so weird. 600,000 views. I wish, of course, I had my own 600,000 views, but it's not that. Like, it's not like I'm envious that this video makes so many views. The question is, what can even, I'm not going to watch this, I'm not going to read the script, but what kind of explanation can you give? Maybe 20 minutes for this kind of stupid question, like how did medieval peasants survive freezing winters, may be enough, because I really can't think. Yeah, maybe it'd even be an interesting topic, but say, if you want to make it interesting, it should be long. Should be something very technical, very specific, very physical, very sort of mathematical. A blog. Then there is suggested this. This is from a video game. 100,000 views. The only way to defeat war tunnels. 9 minutes. Yes, because now you have to ask a video game how to do that. Then 130,000 views 1 week ago. Public execution of German soldiers on the Soviet gallows. Which 25 minutes. This may have been even more interesting than the others, but it's also like, yeah, I would watch it. I mean, I wouldn't actually watch it because, say, who the hell cares? I mean, in terms of, we know that happened, so it's not like, surely there is some extra info that I'm not aware of that would be worth watching, but would it be? Because I barely have any time for anything, so I have to consider that, but that's me. And then, the usual thing, this is 2 hours long, 67,000 views. From 3 weeks ago, World War II wonder weapons of the Third Reich, Nazi Germany's desperate ... I don't know what it says. Here it says shows all. Yes, because there are others. Okay, let's not. Basically, it's just Germans. It's a German World War II, because everything has to be about that all the time. But especially, let's search for the further what people search, because that makes me curious. I don't know whether this is tailored on the basis of my own content, but it says East and West Germany unification. Okay. Ancient European civilizations. Suspiciously generic. Relations between Germany and Europe. This. Okay, well, I will not comment on this. And partition and unification of Germany. It's obviously referring to, say, World War II, from World War II on. Song for the unification of Europe. This is curious, like, meaning song for the unification of Europe? Is it a thing? Let me check. What the hell? Why is it so? Ah, yeah, that's a thing. It's in Greek, apparently, if this is what it is. Well, maybe an idea. Well, not for me, but oh, what happened? Okay. Medieval Europe, a complete overview. Well, welcome to Schwerpunkt. You know, go check my playlist. Medieval miniatures wargaming. That's apparently also a thing, except nothing else here is. Say, why does it have to be medieval miniatures wargaming and not my, I don't know, historical military unit? Playlist. Unification of Germany and Britain. What kind of connection is there? Like, but this is weird. Yeah. What else? We made pretty interesting amount of income, by the way, so far. This is something you want to bear in mind. Yeah, we have, I will not say how many income I have per 1,000 views, but it's not too low. Yeah. And weirdly enough, that video about the Frankish management, the recompaction, that made the greatest income in this. Here, this is the span of 28 days, and it's because I don't know why YouTube uses that. Perhaps it's something related with February and the fact that he uses the shortest month as an indicator for income or whatever. The condottieri made a particularly large amount of income. The airly as well, but not as far as the condottieri make so much. Well, that made really lots of views, so I expect maybe that may be normal, but still not like lots of views necessarily means higher income. Yeah. But anyway, these are the kind of stuff that YouTube tells you, and public, I'm sure there is some other stats here. I'm not going to make spoilers here, but there are people who watch other channels. They're not that bigger than mine. The most to watch Sand Roman history. This is tailored on my public. There's an average amount of people who came back on my channel from the video made on the German military strategy from 1871 to 1914. Moltke Senior, Valdas, etc. The Condottieri as well. And here, by the way, is the time of Schwerpunkt fine? Like, this is 9. It's 9 p.m. Central European time when the video is launched. We didn't look at the demographics. And the countries either. Lots of people watch, seriously kidding me? The majority of people watch my stuff from the phone. What your public watches the most? This is interesting. This is what we already. Okay, so in this last last 3 months, regarding the region, let's talk watch length because that's what actually matters. The wide majority, of course, United States. Yeah. Which accounts for 42%. I think they've gone down over the years. In relative terms to the others, of course. United Kingdom, 6.3, Germany, 5.1, Canada, 4.8, Australia, 2.5, Finland, 2.1, Italy, 1.8, Sweden, 1.7, the Netherlands, 1.7. Oh, right, so these are all in the range of 1%. We get Poland, Romania, France, Brazil, Spain. And in terms of views, Americans, this is interesting. Americans have 36% of views only, but they watch a big deal more. Well, congratulations. So the average watch length, let's see what people watches the longest. Usually the top ones are just a guy that watches from God knows where and it gets in the stats as a low. However, we have, I remember this, the Finns apparently have the highest record because they consistently watch it and highly. 21 minutes on average. Congrats, Finland. Secondly, Croatia, which has just, Finland has like 2,300 views. Croatia has 500. Croatia gets 17 minutes and 54 seconds. Portugal, interestingly enough, 15. Serbia 15, that's also good. Slovenia 15. Slovakia 15. Wow, we have lots of these Slavic countries. I'm very pleased to hear that, because I made lots of videos about these countries in general. I have something new coming on Serbia specifically, but and we have Switzerland. Switzerland, I remember having been a particular thing before, but I'm very glad there are 362 views. United States, again, as we've seen, 14, 25, just like Switzerland. New Zealand, 14. Canada does very well because it has 8,000 views, which make 4.2% of the whole, in a total of the 4.8 watch length, with 14 minutes each, which, considering the overall population, it's pretty high. Looking at the other countries, then you have Germany 13 minutes, Hungary 13 minutes, Norway 13 minutes, Lithuania 12, Sweden 12, United Kingdom 12, Czechia 12, Bosnia and Herzegovina 12, Australia 11, Austria, no, the Netherlands 10, Austria 10, Ukraine 10. This is interesting. Ireland 10, South Africa 10, Spain 10, Thailand 10. This is interesting. Thailand has only 50 views. It makes it 0.0% of the entire hours watch length, 8.4. Well, we really make a lot of watch length though, overall. There is Romania below 10, Poland, France, Colombia, Bulgaria, Denmark, Chile, Japan, Brazil, Greece, Mexico, Italy, Belgium, Turkey, Georgia, Algeria, Morocco, Argentina, Somalia, Arabia. Well, yeah. New York, as these are cities. Well, it doesn't mean too much. However, we have a New Yorker. Like, this is just like some people that have, for some reason, their location set public so that YouTube spots. It's not that relevant. Some are just random views, but some of them are consistent. This New York viewer has 100 views and 17 hours long. Watch London, with also pretty high watch length. Sydney, the New Wales of the South Australia. Chicago, Illinois, 18 minutes. Wow, I'm impressed. Warsaw, Poland, Zurich, Chelsea, Michigan, Seattle, Washington, Madrid, Spain, Montreal, Quebec, Jaipur, Rajasthan, Rome, Stockholm, Dallas, Salem, Oregon, Marica, Rio de Janeiro, Denver, Colorado, Milan, Gothenburg, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Cagliari, Sardinia, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Boston, Massachusetts, Chamorin, Slovakia, Moscow. Wow, we have spies there. Toronto, Ontario, Dublin, Ireland, Genoa, Italy, Bucharest, Romania, Cologne, Germany, Berlin, Germany, Columbus, Ohio, Hamilton, Ontario, Budapest, Alba Iulia, Romania, Lacombe, Louisiana. This is interesting, but they are just random. The demographics. So, in terms of views, well, who cares about them? Let's go at the average watch. So, okay, first of all, like the entire watch length for each group. So, okay, we have 12.3% between 18 to 24, 37.3 between 25 to 34. This is more than 1/3, as you would expect, but it's interesting that, well, the youngsters are a bit too few, but we have an interesting 33.9, 35 to 44. We have more people between 45 and 54 years old that watch, then they 18 to 24 at 13%. Then we have 54, 64, 7.9, and we have, interestingly enough, 65 and more really 5.7. And so let's watch the average watch length. Wow, this is interesting. The highest is, how are minors counted here? There's a percentage that was not visible of people that 0.7, before it was 0, now we have, or maybe there were too few. Okay, so no, let's say average watch length. Well, it's more or less the same. It's more or less the same, except people between 35 and 44 dominate. And also 45 to 54 are watching more than 25 to 34. This is very interesting. Even, don't tell me, no, barely, however, 55 to 64 watch more or less the same rate, and 65 plus, it's 10 minutes average. Well, you know, it's not that bad. I wouldn't look at the sex, because I always had like a 10% female audience that rarely manifested, especially throughout certain times. But here I have to refresh a little because I've been clicking hundreds of times in this YouTube studio. It got a bit angry about it. But yeah, it should be something like that, I presume. Maybe, I don't know, the stats may be this is gonna take time. This is pretty normal, by the way. All the figures that we looked at were predictable. So sex, wow, seriously? Women have fallen to 8.3. But the average watch length is slightly less than men. Yeah, well, doesn't matter. There's also a non-specified amount that watched well too few and relatively high. Just wanted to look at playlists. Which ones are the most watched in absolute terms, at least. I don't understand whether this is the count of the videos in a given playlist or the reproduction of the playlist. I don't get it, because these are not, yeah, these are definitely not the playlist views. These are the total. Well, whatever. Schwerpunkt makes world history, European history, medieval, but this doesn't count because there are so many videos in different playlists that it's not too relevant after all. Should be how many views in total. Medieval Bohemian, Karl von Clausewitz, Byzantine history, Frankish history, Starain, migration era strategy, medieval northern Italy, medieval Hungary, medieval Serbia, history of religion, medieval Poland, medieval northern European warfare, Italian communal warfare, medieval Western Europe, Germanic warfare. Well, more or less. Well, this is it. I don't want to make the video too long, but I needed to get somewhere with it anyway. For today, however, I stop it here. I just hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it. Otherwise, leave a like or subscribe to my channel if you're interested in my upcoming content. As always, I thank you heartily for listening to me. I wish you a nice time and see you next time. Bye.